Today we have our another new episode, and this episode is very, very important. We're going to discuss about balanced energy transition. Because of the Ukraine and Russia war, all of the countries around the world, especially emerging economy, they have heavily challenge in the energy sectors, money inflations, food prices, lot of things happening around Asia Pacific. So hopefully, through this balanced energy transition procedure, uh, we can develop right kind of strategy for our nations. We have our world famous speakers, Professor Ching, Professor Rob, Professor David Smith, and Mr. Daniel. First, I would like to give chance, Mr. Ching.
Daniel.
Mr. Ching, what you want to discuss about balanced energy transition?
Okay. The transition of energy. So basically, this discussion has been going on for many years, decades. And the solution is you can look everywhere. The final solution, everybody provides a solution, but the final solution is that we need more innovation. Okay, because after all these years, the renewable energy is 13%. It increased by 1 or 2% maximum for every several years. So there's the real big long-term problem is the material. There's not enough material. So I'm the founder of Pole Science Institute, and I disagree generally with what society is doing. Okay, basically the society is it can be described as a money-oriented society, while Pole Science Institute is for knowledge-oriented society. Okay, I like this forum because this forum is more linked toward knowledge-oriented rather than money-oriented. Okay, Sheriff has been saying that people do not talk about money here. Okay, so this is why I'm here. I'm trying to help out. Okay, so what I'm saying, I'm thinking is this. Okay, we need to have some new approach. Okay, we need to change the society from money-oriented to knowledge-oriented. And this topic of transition should be changed to the energy crisis. Okay, this topic try to say is let's solve it temporarily. It's not a long-term solution, it's a short-term solution. Okay, I have been talking about this for at least 30 years. The solution is the solution of value. Okay, you need to make decisions what to do. Okay, and so far the solution of value is not there. Okay, the most leading thinker in the solution of value is Kenneth Arrow. Okay, he understands the problem, and he also pointed out what is deficient in today's solution. So very few people know Kenneth Arrow. I mentioned Kenneth Arrow, many people immediately turn away because Kenneth Arrow is for calculation to infinity, just like Pole Science Institute. But they like me because I have the solution. You see, so another simpler problem than the energy crisis is the financial crisis. And the Pole Science Institute is the only company which can solve the financial crisis. We can predict, and now we can pretty much solve the financial crisis. So we know nobody can do this. And the energy crisis could be even more involved because it involved globally. You have the factors are numerous, maybe a couple of times more than real estate and stock market. So, let me just roughly explain to the audience what does the solution means. Okay. Today we solve a problem by compared to the past. Somebody solve a problem with some past solution and we use the same solution to solve future problems. Okay, this is called the comparison method. And also, in countries like Russia, China, they use, Karl Marx introduced this finance planning, 5-year plans. You see, these are the methods they use, okay, to solve problems. Okay, for Pole Science Institute, the solution value has a totally different way of looking at this problem. The way we look at it is we want to formulate a relationship between the final value and all the things that will affect the value. In other words, the future expectations. You want to relate the two things. Okay, price relate to future expectation or rate of return relate to future expectation. We can calculate for real estate price and we can calculate for stock rate of return, but we cannot calculate for energy because it doesn't pay us, to look into such a complicated solution and nobody can even understand the simple problem. What we need to do in making a decision is formulate a complete relationship between the value and the future expectation, a complete mathematical rigorous relationship, which means we have to take it to infinity. Okay, going to infinity is only supported by Kenneth Arrow, Gerald de Boer, and John von Neumann, and myself, and also some of my mentors. They agree with me. Okay, and what the way to make a decision is to formulate the relationship. Then, if any time the future expectation changes, immediately you recalculate. Okay, so this is the first step society need to take. And today, they completely refuse to take this step. If they refuse to take this step, we cannot advance. Okay, they cannot solve the financial crisis. Now we are facing with the energy crisis. I will discuss a little bit about the energy crisis because I'm involved in fusion research. I'm one of the oldest fusion control fusion research in the world. This has been discontinued for about 30 years and now it's revived. Okay, so basically you need to do that. Okay, you need to look at the entire picture of the energy and you try to see what's the best step to take. In my opinion, the best step to take is to move the society from pursuit of money to pursuing knowledge. Okay, you want to change today's money-oriented society. The purpose of doing something is for money or for knowledge. Okay, these are two different things. Okay, my professors, they belong to the knowledge society, so the knowledge generation. So I have this 10 mentors who can talk to me. Today, I cannot find a single person I can really talk to. I have many students who listen to me and they follow my instruction. Like I told Sheriff, we're going to form in real estate. We're going to win in all cases because we got so many advantage over all this, other people who do not know how to calculate real estate price. How can they compete again? We are doing okay. The society is not doing okay. So basically, you need to move into knowledge-oriented society, and also funding innovations, not funding for money-making projects. Okay, it wastes lots of things, and the most thing they waste is energy. Okay, that is the waste that we need to stop. We need to find a new innovation to to solve this renewable energy problem. Okay, so what amount is this? In my own case, I'm an expert in control fusion reactors. Okay, for control fusion reactor, there's a long-term consequence of energy crisis. That is, the Earth, the climate going through period of hot, cold. Okay, as the Earth axis changes. Okay, every 40 years there will be a ice age. Okay, today we want to cool down the Earth. But what really human beings need to do is to heat up the Earth, okay, during the ice age. So all the civilization in the past perished because too cold, okay, they cannot survive. So a test of survival is to see if you can solve the energy problem to heat up the Earth. Okay, of all the energy, the chemical energy, which is the fossil fuel, okay, is, the nuclear bonding force is 1 million times of the chemical bonding. Okay, so nuclear energy is 1 million times more efficient than chemical energy. And the fusion is maybe order magnitude, a few, 5 to 10 times more efficient than fission. Okay, fusion is more efficient than fission, and the fission causes creates waste, radioactive waste. Nobody can take care of that. Okay, and what people in this transitional period, people suggest we use fission temporarily. Then we discontinue the fission and replace it with renewable energy, solar, and the wind and the whatever is it, and hydro. But you see, this fusion is probably a challenge to mankind for survival. We need fusion. Okay, we need lots and lots of energy to heat up the earth sometime in the future. Okay, so I'm very much for the renew interest in fusion. Okay, and they are actually doing that. My suspicion is they have already done it, except that they don't want to release the solution because it's related to weapon creation. So I think I'm not. The pole science is not too interesting directly related to joining the society. Whatever society says, we probably find something wrong. And this, why not at the stage we complete because the COVID-19 we organize our knowledge. We try to summarize our knowledge. We pretty much completely dissociate from what society wants to do. Okay, we do what we do. Okay, so I told you guys I go dancing a lot. Okay, 3 days a week. So we do
Thank
what
you. Thank you.
do.
Thank
We
you,
want
Mr. Jing.
people to go into knowledge. Okay, so basically that's the solution.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Professor Rob, what you want to discuss about balanced energy transition?
Well, so balanced energy transition, it kind of implies that part of what we probably discuss is what constitutes balance. The idea of balance, I think, in our current context, would be being able to create and transmit energy with the minimal waste and the minimal adverse impacts on the environment. As he pointed out, one of the big problems we've got with the current energy infrastructure is that we lose way too much due to transport. And with regard to renewable energy, we are still below optimum efficiency. We're not capturing the full force of the wind. We're not capturing the full force of the waves. We're not capturing the full force of the sun yet. And so the ability to put some of the renewable energy generation capabilities near their use reduces transport cost, but doesn't make up for the inefficiency of the technology as it currently exists. And so the goal in terms of creating some type of a balanced energy system would be to focus on increasing the efficiency of the sustainable energy sources we have, while eliminating, either by eliminating transport or making transport more efficient, the energy loss through transport. And so that would allow you to have more usable energy without significantly impacting the environment. I didn't quite follow the heating the earth thing, but I do understand if we were to drop into an ice age, we might need to. The current problem, though, is the Earth is getting too hot. And so the efforts to try to reduce the heat to the Earth, particularly global efforts, could make it harder to generate certain kinds of electricity, like solar. So, for instance, if our solution for global warming is to reduce the impact of the sun on the planet, that's going to reduce our ability to generate power, at least terrestrially. By solar generation, we'd have to go to orbital generation and then transmit to the surface, which would be problematic because you'd have to transmit through whatever shield you placed up to block the sun. It's certainly doable, but it would add significantly to what is already a very complex problem in terms of orbital energy transmission. So that, and then of course the third way I mentioned too. The third way is to reduce energy use. In other words, create, instead of focusing on efficiency on the generation side, focus on efficiency on the use side. And there are a lot of ways we can do that. A number of the ways we waste electricity is in environmental controls. The current way we air condition buildings, for instance, is highly inefficient. We can move away from the current methods, which use gases, not so much freon anymore, but the gases we use are still harmful, that we use to compress and decompress in order to transmit heat from indoors to outdoors. We have new technologies using heat pumps that don't necessarily have to use those gases, that are, at least in the labs, quite a bit more efficient. I believe MIT came out with the latest set of proposals, but nothing. I've been looking to see if anybody's got it in production for the last week, and I can't find anybody that has it in production. But the idea is, if you can reduce significantly the amount of power you're using to mitigate climate, at least you're now mitigating a lot of the heat you're putting into the environment through these heat exchangers, and potentially using a lot less power. And much of our power generation produces heat, which is problematic in and of itself. So if we go down a combined path of reducing energy use, creating efficiencies in terms of consumption, increase efficiencies in terms of generation, and eliminate or massively reduce the energy loss in terms of transport, we could make some relatively large inroads in terms of being able to provide the world's energy. We certainly are generating enough energy to provide the world with the energy needs that it has. The problem is we're losing too much, mostly in transport in this particular case. So if we can increase our efficiency in terms of utilization, increase our efficiency in terms of generation, and reduce our losses, then I think we can come to a much better balance in terms of energy use and energy generation than we currently have. And yet our focus is pretty much all ad hoc. There, to my knowledge, there isn't a global integrated, or even a stateside integrated focus, with possible exceptions of South Korea, Singapore, and some parts of China, where they do working pretty hard on trying to create energy and usage balance. For most of the world, it is very imbalanced, and our waste in particular is out of hand. And it's not just energy use. I was just reading an article the other day on terms of water use, and and much of the water, up to 60% of the water in any individual nation, particularly emerging nations, is wasted. It's lost mostly through leakage in the pipes. And a similar problem to electrical transport. And so if you can address those waste problems, the unnecessary loss of whatever we're talking about, would be it water or power, you can bring up utilization. I mean, you can bring up efficiency significantly, and thereby create a much higher form of balance. Ideally, you only want to produce the energy that you're going to use, and you reduce waste to zero, and that would be the underlying goal in terms of being able to create some type of a balanced energy generation usage model. And I'll pass to David.
Rob, thank you so very much. I agree with your comments on the different energy uses models, how they need to change, and that one of the big challenges we have today is in the transmission side, because the transmission is probably the least efficient of the whole process, and of balancing the renewable side. So let me make a couple of comments going through that, and come back and circle around to that. So, to many people, the energy transition is really more than simply about how we generate it. It comprises the shift away from high pollution based fuels to fuels that do not pollute as much. They might be renewable There might be other approaches to it, but the overall goal of this is to curb the carbon emissions globally, while significantly increasing our ability to generate, transmit, and use energy with whatever form. And uh, and we talked about some of the inefficiencies, both you and Rob, of the different parts, um, and how that can be done, and how we can promote the differences. You know, one of the other big grand challenges, besides the transmission in this transition of energy space, has to do with how can we store energy when it's not being consumed. You know, for example, uh, solar generates only during the sunlight and can generate an excess that is just lost if there's not enough demand to fully utilize it. Same thing with wind power. It generates and does that period. So storage is a very important part of that. Some of the approaches I've seen more novel, though, recently in how to do a balanced energy transition includes things like kinetic power. An example I've used on your program, Dr. Sharif, before, is I've seen some very innovative approaches to embedding simple devices into train cars that take advantage of them rolling over the track all the time, and it putting into the train explicit battery storage cars that these charge, that get dropped off, and new battery storage cars get put onto the train as it moves through its destinations. And that is actually another way where you can see a balanced energy transition of relying more just on what we see, for example, than solar or wind power, which is the two major ones where you begin to think of it. The other place that we're seeing is in this balanced energy transition is actually looking more at the material science side of it. For example, looking at carbon-free or low-carbon fuels like hydrogen, and seeing if, for example, hydrogen is already being promoted as a potential solution to many of our challenges. And I really am fascinated by the work of hydrogen powered cars, and that's looking like it's becoming closer to reality. And if it does continue to pick up speed like it has in the last 2 years, that might make our movement to electric vehicles just a transitional stage, as opposed to having EVs being the solution as we look at it. But you know, it's the benefits of this type of transition that we're talking about, Sharif, is it's reduced emissions, it's reduced pollution, lowering carbon, hoping to get to net zero on the environmental side. But also, it's a diversification of our energy supplies and our energy ecosystem, and an upgrading of tremendous parts of it. And unfortunately, we need to look at all parts of our energy systems globally, not just how we source the materials, how we generate the power, how we transmit it, how we store it, how do we manage it. Uh, Many of the power distribution systems are still uh, using very ancient technology. How do we look at concepts like microgrids and mini grids as part of that solution? How do we look at the concept of point of use power generation versus the hub and spoke power generation that we've used for hundreds of years as a part of this solution? So, Sri, this whole area of a balanced energy transition is a very complex system, again, made up of multiple systems. And each of these need to be optimized if we're going to have a balanced energy transition policy approach and security. So thank you, Sharif.
Thank you. Mr. Daniel.
Yeah, I apologize. I may have some internet glitch in my audio, so I'll try to speak slowly because of that. I don't know if I've solved that problem. But hi, I'm Dan Tweed, actually running a presidential candidate for the Transhumanist Party of the United States with Tom Ross. And it's really a good practice to come on your show, Sharif, because all things that you do are things that we're going to be addressing, hopefully, with the Transhumanist Party platform and the campaign for president and vice president. Now, mostly trying to do is get members in the party, expose people to transhumanist ideas, and transhumanist ideas are any way that humans augment their quality and quantity of life with technology. So it's a pretty broad category. It's kind of like the libertarian category. It includes, minarchists and anarchists and everything in between. So anyway, that's it. First, probably one of my biggest influences in futurist and transhumanist thinking was the Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller, who I got exposed to at an early age thanks to Stuart Brand's Whole Earth catalog. And Bucky Fuller, as he's called, posed an interesting question. He said, how do we make the world work for 100% in the shortest possible time through spontaneous cooperation without ecological damage or disadvantage to anyone? And research is showing more and more that the best strategy to do this is interconnecting the energy grids between regions and continents into a global energy grid with an emphasis on abundant renewable energy resources, kind of a worldwide web of electricity, because electricity is the most handy way to move energy around right now. I mean, hydrogen might become one way. There's other ideas, compressed air perhaps to store and move it. Actually, water is an interesting way to store energy with pretty good efficiency. But how do we make this worldwide grid of energy? Well, I think key is the worldwide grid of talent, which is what you're working on, economy. And this brain matter that we have in our heads is the most complex, dense form of matter in the whole universe. So if we're not taking full advantage of it, we're not availing ourselves of the potential for a flourishing, abundant civilization, which I think we should be working on. Giving people the overview effect that the Earth is a spaceship is very important. And also realizing that we're in a shoot. Right now, we're adding 200,000 people every day to the human civilization, to the human population. And that's going to go on supposedly till 30 years. So how do we take care of an extra 200,000 people every day added to Spaceship Earth? Well, one way we do that, one was with ideas like Edenicity, which is Kev Polk's design for Eden-like cities. I have a program, a nonprofit I run called Permatrail, which was founded on the idea of permaculture and interconnecting all the green spaces around the world so you could have freedom of movement around the world. But Kev Polk has pointed out that permaculture is not optimized for energy sharing like cities and apartments. A lot of permaculture plans involve these detached rural kinds of households, and there just really isn't enough resources to give everyone a kind of rural permaculture detached home lifestyle right now. We've got to look at very efficiently built cities that capture all the water they need, are car free, that have infrastructure for transportation with space. And if we create these dense population centers, these Eden-like cities with the green spaces surrounding them, the Earth will heal. We will have the wild ecology restore itself if we just give it the habitat. So that's the vision for a balanced energy transition: is a world connected energy grid. And another thing that would facilitate this is a worldwide monetary unit based on the kilowatt hour. It's the only thing that really makes sense because everyone uses electric energy, and it's got inherent value. It's not printed by some Federal Reserve, debt slavery printing press scheme that supposedly makes the economy even out and run without with crashes and booms. But that would be a great step to create not only a kilowatt hour currency, but kind of a love currency. People should be doing what they love. Right now, a lot hate their jobs. I think a poll said 70% of people hate their jobs, basically, in the U.S. And there's a saying among artists: if you're not doing what you love, why do you expect to get paid for it? So we want to create not only an energy balance transition to a love-based economy that shares human energy in kind of a microgrid, load balance with reciprocal accountability. And these are the kinds of ideas that we'll be pursuing in the Ross Tweed 2024 Transhumanist Party campaign. So really great to see Yu Ching here. I think he's right that we have to constantly be doing relation between expected states and present states, and that kind of math calculation that is the right way to look at our present and our future. So I'll pass the mic, and thanks again.
Thank you. Mr. Ching, what knowledge you want to share with us?
Okay. Yeah, well, I appreciate you bring out some items on this topic. Where David said hydrogen car, this is a very interesting topic because in spite of people talking electric cars, it's still pollution. There's still pollution. Okay, hydrogen car is the least polluted vehicle. Unfortunately, hydrogen car with the same tank of hydrogen can only go 60 miles range. Okay, so what we need to watch out for is to see how far the hydrogen car can go. Okay, very interesting. This is very interesting. So people are pursuing hydrogen, and I'm sure I'm pursuing Bloom. They have fuel cell hydrogen. So, and this company doesn't make money, and the government subsidizes it and help it to cheat on its revenue. But still, the company is surviving, and the stock is going very high. Okay, so this shows the importance of hydrogen. Okay, also Ron pointed out this transmission question. Okay, the transmission question is related to the current AI research, ChatGPT. They want to relate all this wind power by some AI system. It will make it much more efficient. So I do agree with that. And also, finally, there's discussion of global warming, the carbon problem, carbon dioxide problem. Okay, is it people? Carbon dioxide problem is a problem that can be ignored. Okay, so government do not want to pay too much attention to that. So, but it raises a general question of global warming. Okay, so what we really need to do is to do climate control. We want to warm it up as we want. We want to cool it down as it need to be done. And this control relate to the problem of energy. Okay, you energy generation. How much energy you can generate. That's why I have to return back to this nuclear energy. Okay, the transition, what people balance, balance or transition, energy transition is really today the world is talking, the key topic people talk about, Dr. Sheriff, you should look around. The key topic people talk about is nuclear energy. they want to use nuclear as an intermediate state. Okay, then phase it out as we develop renewable energy. You see, so the nuclear energy fusion is good for both long term and short term. But the key is really the intermediate state. We don't have enough energy. We would, eventually, with all this chip and all this data center taking so much energy, we need to have more energy. Okay, so we need to have. They are talking about nuclear because of data center. Countries try to develop nuclear. Okay, so this nuclear fission is the intermediate stage. Okay, so come to this energy amount. Okay, Ron mentioned something about transportation. Transportation only take up 15% of the energy usage. Okay, in the industry take up maybe 20%. The rest, 25%, is for power generation and for agriculture. So this transportation is important, but the people focus on transportation because of the electric car, but it's relatively low. It's 15%, only 15%. So we need to really look at the again, I want to look at the solution I'm trying to promote. Okay, one thing I want to say, which people probably would really object, that is, human beings today are not intelligent enough to solve many of the problems of the future. Okay. In fact, they cannot solve a single crisis. Okay, the financial crisis is the easiest, and they cannot solve. And I try to introduce complete automated software. Okay, that's a 500 variable problem, and nobody can even understand the problem. Okay, so basically therefore, I need to mention one thing before I leave. That is AI. Okay, general AI and the artificial AGI. Okay, they are different. Okay, but you can find out what's the difference between AGI and the GAI. Okay, but in any case, I think what we human being is good in making tools. Okay. Two fingers are better than a plier. Okay. Two fingers is not as good as a plier. Okay. They make pliers to replace the finger. Okay. They make a hammer to replace the fist in hammering nail. So now we are making the artificial brain to enhance the human brain. This is an important development. Few people see this. Okay. The transhumanism party should immediately point this out. Okay, people think there's a danger in artificial intelligence. No, we need it. Humans are not intelligent enough. We need to make tools which make us more intelligent. So we can solve 50 variable problem. We can solve 500 variable problem. And in this energy case, we need to connect everything together. Okay, like Daniel said, connect things together so we can make it more efficient. We have storage, batteries, so that is the first application in energy. And the other things, I will really think that we need the artificial brain, using our self-generated neural network of unlimited software cells. Another, we can Pulsar Institute can generate unlimited amount of cells until the disk is full. Then people need to see how they are connected together to make a brain. I don't know how to think this. Okay, this is a problem beyond my ability. Okay, and the way to do it is to use a common file, and every time self-generating, it will create a new software cell. Just like in neural network. Neural network, they use humans to create the cells. And here we have Pulsar as a system called self-generated neural network of unlimited software cells. You see. So that will create the brain. Okay. Once they have that, Also, you see, there's another thing that Daniel probably should look into is, today with all this computer technology, what is most important? They say speed is important, size is important, memory size is important. We say no. Okay, we say the most important thing is complete automation. The reason complete automation will allow every human being over the age of 6 to program a computer. Another, put all the human brain to work. Okay, now we only people who can read English or go to class, to learn some language, then they can program. That's not necessary. Computer is smart enough to eliminate all the technological barrier in computer usage. Okay, once we do that, we should put more effort into complete automated software. So I'm against Microsoft. I told Microsoft in a class action lawsuit, I say, the software developer should pay for the cost of updating. Okay, Microsoft lawyer almost crawl under the table. Okay, if that's the case, then software people today will not make any money. Okay, later I call up Microsoft. I say, talk to their lawyers, Microsoft attorney. They told me that they'll do a last chance to give Bill Gates a last chance to to convert, but we couldn't. Richard Stallman and I, we tried to compete against Microsoft, but we didn't do that. He's too smart for us, and we ran out. Sun Micro, okay, Sun Micro bankrupt instead Microsoft. Sun Micro is relatively good, Bill Joy and all these guys, James Gosling, they're nice people, but money is money. So this money-oriented society, anybody who make money are the winners. So basically that's the case. So I really feel that we need to put more energy into it. My thinking is I would try to, if I have more time, I would try to go to India, or Bangladesh and China. Okay, there are more people. All these people, we say, okay, let's start a new software foundation, complete automated software foundation. Everyone can program computer. So get rid of all this current software. Okay, we have a crisis. We have a software crisis. Nobody's, I'm a software developer. I will not write any code because I know eventually nobody going to update, nobody going to maintain the codes. So just not the long-term solution. Okay, one thing that can really help the world is to develop the complete automated software, which will take maybe, I would estimate $10 trillion. For China, maybe China, India, maybe a few $1 trillion. For the world, maybe $20 trillion. But we got to do it. Once we do that, then we have every human being able to program computer. So everyone can contribute. If they have some innovation, then they can apply to the public entity, and we will evaluate this thing by our evaluation software to see if it's worthwhile, not by peer review, okay, which is market comparison. Okay, this peer review is blocking all the innovation because suppose I've been submitting papers to journals. I have a journal which will take my paper, regardless, probably my paper just my name is on it, but I submit to other journals, and the journal should not use peer review. You see, journal should, people who submit papers should be higher, more knowledgeable than the journal editors. So if some paper they don't understand, that's the paper they should publish. Okay, not the paper they can understand. Okay, if they cannot understand, they should not just reject it. They should come and ask us what we are talking about. Today, nobody is doing that. So we have a situation of a society that is stagnant. It just stay there. So basically, I'm just my student and I, we are doing our own thing. We don't really pay much attention to what's going on, and it's stuck there, and that's the problem, with all this crisis, and no crisis has been solved. You say, okay, Daniel, you should be the one eventually to tell them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rob.
Sure. Okay, so a couple clarifications. With regard to hydrogen, current hydrogen cars have an estimated range between 300 and 400 miles, certainly more than electrical cars have in production right now. And Toyota has demonstrated that they've got upwards of 845 miles with current generation fuel cells. So they've got a lot of range. The issue with hydrogen versus electrical power is that with electrical power, we started out without much of an ecosystem, but we could charge the cars in our homes. Much the way we started with gas cars. Originally with gas cars, folks bought gas at a store, and then they put in tanks in their homes, and they filled up the homes before gas stations. And so the electrical ecosystem, though, has expanded. You had Electrify America, which was funded by Volkswagen as a result of their screw up with diesel cars. And then you had the massive Tesla ecosystem that was put in place to handle Tesla cars. And Tesla just recently opened that ecosystem up to other automobiles. And so you have an ecosystem to supply the power. The issue with hydrogen is we don't have that ecosystem. We don't have enough transport trucks. We certainly don't have hydrogen gas stations in Northern California, where I used to live. If you wanted to get hydrogen, you had to go to the airport and get hydrogen there, or you'd have to go to a depot and maybe get somebody to clear the depot. Hydrogen is currently used for fleets, and that's because fleets can fuel up at a central site, typically owned by the fleet, and then they can wander and come back and get refueled. But the issue with hydrogen isn't its cleanliness; it's the transport, in that you need special trucks, pressurized trucks to transport it. And you need specialized tanks to store it. You can't just throw it into a gas station and hope it's going to work. Gas tanks, to a large extent, are not pressurized, and hydrogen has to be delivered pressurized. So you can do it. It just,
means you'd have to waiting for Sashi. I've got about 10 minutes, and I guess we'll see if your buddy comes in and if Jim comes in. But yeah, you sound loud and clear.
And Mark, could you mute your phone, please? Because you're live on this.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. So hydrogen, for those reasons, if we'd started with hydrogen about the same time we started with electricity and built out an ecosystem and had somebody like Tesla build it out. I mean, if Toyota, who was the huge advocate for hydrogen, had built out a charging ecosystem, a refueling ecosystem, then it would be viable today. But Toyota didn't go down that path. And in fact, none of the electrical car companies went down the path of building out an ecosystem, except for Tesla. As I mentioned, only Volkswagen kind of did it after the fact with Electrify America, but that was because they lost a lawsuit, not because it was part of a strategy to expand electrical power. In fact, Tesla just bypassed Volkswagen and electric cars in Europe this week. So I was kind of surprised, because I thought they probably bypassed them a long time ago, but this week they bypassed Volkswagen in terms of electrical vehicles. So electrical, at least with regard to transportation, seems to be the path that we're on, except for maybe fleets, largely due to the problems with regard to hydrogen transport and storage. Now, speaking of storage, that's the existing problem with the electrical power is storage. The engines are relatively efficient. The methodologies we use are more reliable than fuel cars. Where they are unreliable is in the electronics, and it's the same electronics the fuel cars are using. In fact, it's kind of fun to look on the forums and see people struggling with keeping their 12-volt batteries charged on electric cars, because electric cars use the same operating systems that the gas cars use to keep costs down. And the end result is they also have to have a 12-volt battery, a standalone battery, to power those systems. And keeping those batteries charged on electric cars proven to be an issue, because when that battery goes dead, none of your stuff works, even if your traction battery is fully charged, which is just kind of fascinating. You really don't realize why they didn't siphon off the voltage from the traction battery to power the rest of the electronics, but that just wasn't the way to do it, and they didn't do it that way, which has created some issues. But back to power transport and efficiency, if we can solve the storage problem, solve the loss of power in storage, then it makes a lot of the sustainable power sources much more attractive. As David pointed out, one of the issues with the sustainable sources is the fact they come and go depending on when the wind is blowing or when the sun is shining, and that means you need to store energy. And if your storage isn't efficient, if you're not getting anywhere near, and we're not 100% efficiency with regard to storage, you're getting way too much storage loss, and that means to build out a plant. For instance, on my house, I've got a massive solar plant, and it's massive because it's got to charge the batteries so I can run off solar power at night. I've got 4 large-scale Tesla batteries at a cost of 17 grand each battery, so that not only do I continue to work if we've got a power outage, which it happens every once in a while, but so I can power my house mostly from solar and power it both day and night. But those solar batteries will wear out over time. They are less than 100% efficient, and the end result is I'm generating a lot of excess power just to fill those batteries on a daily basis, which makes it harder for me to get to 100% solar power. In fact, I don't have enough roof space to make it to 100%. The best I ever get is between 55 and 60% efficiency. I'm still pulling about 40% of power off the grid. And to close that particular gap, I'd have to put solar panels all over my yard, and who the hell knows however else. I have no more roof space. So that's kind of the issues that we have now. We inefficiencies in transport, loss in transport, inefficiencies in generation, inefficiencies in use. One other aspect we've had is smart technology to use for power both in homes and in industries. Going back to Hugh's comment a little bit with regard to the use of AI. And right now, at least with regard to smart homes and even smart businesses, generative AI isn't really being applied yet, which is somewhat problematic. In fact, AI isn't being applied yet, which is somewhat problematic. Yes, algorithms are being applied, but the common standards that should cut across these industries, the closest thing we've got is Matter out of Google, but it has not been universally adopted yet, even in the home. And I don't see a lot of Matter adoption in industry at all yet, and which means we lack standards. Common standards. Everybody's doing the proprietary thing, which means we aren't able to mix and match components from a variety of vendors and reach optimum efficiency, because you get a lack of communication between the systems, and that lack of communication creates inefficiencies and energy loss. So in the end, there is something to be said about Hugh's comment about applying AI and the fact we're not applying it efficiently, even at a small scale at this moment. And if we could increase the intelligent use of our energy, and at the very least, actively turn off stuff that we're not using, either on an industrial, commercial, or personal scale, we could save a tremendous amount of energy over time. It's not just going to things like LED lighting, but it's actually making sure that stuff is turned off entirely. And we have a massive problem with regard to phantom loads, generators that aren't supplying things, that are just plugged in all the time, using power for no reason. Our phone generators, phone transformers, the television transformers, our appliance transformers. Each one of those things, even when they're off, pull power, and there is really no reason, if you're going to try to create a higher level of efficiency, why they should. In an electrical cars, when parked, will pull power, but if they're left for a long period of time, they will almost entirely power down, so they can sit for months without use, and you don't come back to a dead battery car. You can't start the car remotely anymore because that stuff's all powered down. But they do that. Our appliances don't really do that. After a long period of time, they'll still stay in standby mode, still pulling power, even if we're not using them. And industrial equipment can be worse, particularly older industrial equipment. So intelligently getting rid of the waste would probably be one of the most beneficial ways we could save power, with the overarching problem still being storage. And if we can possibly get solid state batteries to function, currently they still bleed power. Their storage capability is porous, and so they don't hold power as well as they should. Otherwise, their higher efficiency in terms of being able to store and return energy would give them a huge advantage right now. Toyota thinks they've got the solid state battery solved again, but I've seen the reports out of them now several times, and I've yet to see one of the batteries show up in a vehicle. But we are ever closer to maybe solving the storage problem. But I'm now at the point. I was the battery analyst for the United States and Europe for a number of years, and we heard these announcements on a regular basis even back then. And now I'll believe it when I see it. but I am hoping we will in fact have a solid state battery with much higher efficiency before the end of the decade. And then I've got to run to another meeting, so I will say goodbye to you now, and those are my final comments, and pass over to David.
Enjoyed the comments from Rob. Thank you so very much, Sri, for having us on this meeting today. It's a very important one, and you can see the balanced energy transition takes a wide range of technologies, a wide range of services and capabilities to have an impact. Now, we've talked about the different ways power is generated, from those that use fossil fuel, those that excite atoms, wind, solar, wave power, hydropower, kinetic power, many different ways to do it. We've talked about fuel sources, and I particularly enjoyed the conversation on the hydrogen car, because I agree with the information that Rob put in the past. From what I've seen, the range of hydrogen cars is getting much better. The hydrogen car's major pollution when it's actually in use is it generates water. And that is a type of pollution I think I'm not bad with having as an output on that one. We've also talked about the other things that are necessary, enhancements to storage capability of all types, not just batteries, but actually there's many other ways of looking at storage, such as pumping water up while you have extra power to use it to generate additional energy during the downtimes and having it flow back down. That's one of the approaches that I enjoy seeing, particularly in developing nations. A very applicable type of technology there. We've talked about the use of artificial intelligence. And I made the comment earlier that the control systems are still antiquated. And to be able to update control systems with advanced AI, with advanced machine learning, and particularly integrating it with IoT type devices, enhanced sensing, makes so much sense in today's, because all those can converge together and have tremendous impact. You know, the comments Rob made towards the end of his about the fact that we have many devices that consume energy even when they're turned off is one that I think we need to further understand. And yes, I will admit, I love the instant on of a lot of our devices because they have been consuming energy. But you know, in times where we're trying to get to net zero, where we're trying to, like we're doing here in Texas right now, conserve energy, because our loads on our grid are so high right now with this heat wave we're having. Things like that make a lot of sense to use. Same thing if I'm in environments during the winter where it's exceedingly cold. You know, let's look at ways we can conserve energy to have more available to meet our needs. And finally, Sharif is in so many different things like this. To have a balanced energy transition is going to take innovation. There's still, as we've heard today, so many different areas that need science work applied to them, so many different areas that need engineering work, heavy research being done. We need work in the regulatory side to advance this. And more importantly than all of those, we need further work in education to produce people not only that can give us solutions to that we've been talking about, but also to the common citizens to understand their role in a balanced energy transition and how that is going forward. I, for one, really am looking forward to a hydrogen car. That has been on my bucket list for a couple of years, waiting for them to get better. And I think from the science I see and the engineering I've seen coming out, we're on the verge in the next couple of years having multiple manufacturers release hydrogen vehicles. They're in use already in fleets and others with great feedback on them. And I am looking forward to seeing a wide range of energy sources being used to have this balanced energy transition, not just solar, not just wind, but all of the other ones that we have spoken about during the show too, Sheree. So thank you again so much for allowing me to be on your program today. I love giving back, plus I love what I learned from each of the other participants you have on board with it. So thank you so much for allowing me to participate today.
Hey there, glad to be here and popping in here just really quickly. I apologize for that noise that was there early and all along those lines. But one thing I was curious about, and I know we're winding down, Sharif, is a lot of people are looking at this energy transition and wondering how it can impact them on a day-to-day basis. Because I know that I am living in my apartment complex that I am, and a lot of people would love to have solar energy in the apartment complexes. I know that right now most of us are dealing with electricity where I am at here in North Carolina, even though I understand that in other parts of the globe, maybe even there in Texas, there are entire apartment complexes that are solar run. But I don't know how practical that is when there are thousands of units in a apartment complex, and the same thing exists with things that go on in the electrical vehicle space as well, because a lot of people would love an electrical vehicle, but are there enough electrical vehicle stations? A friend of mine owns one of those lovely electrical vehicles. I've had the pleasure of driving to shows with him on at least 3 or 4 occasions, and also going to a couple of restaurants that he has treated me to, and all in that space. So I've definitely seen that they are wonderfully effective cars and that they run real smoothly. But I do remember on one trip literally having to stop and hang out with him at a stop for about 30, 40 minutes because we had to wait to recharge. It takes a while to recharge if you're going on those long trips and everything. So I know we're winding down, but I just wondered, we're thinking about transitions and energy transitions. Are we figuring out enough practical solutions in order to get the energy that we want more widespread? Because will I ever see an apartment complex in Durham, North Carolina that is entirely solar generated? And will I literally, like, if I was to literally walk in my house and walk up about a block, not even a half a block, I could run into 2 gas stations. And then if I walk further down, I'll run into like maybe 50. Am I going to see that many electrical charging stations at some place or another? But just wondering y'all's thoughts about this as we're winding down. And I know I'm coming in toward the latter stage, but I was thinking about that from an energy transition point. But I didn't know if Reverend Tweet or David or you, Mr. Mr. Ching, had any thoughts or anything along those lines. So any thoughts that we've got around whether it can become a more practical solution?
Well, I could jump in on that for a minute, Mark. There's a professor at the Santa Cruz named Robert Staten, and he has a program, solardividends.org, and it's basically community solar farms where every resident has 10 kilowatts of solar panel power in this big power that the city would, or maybe a co-op would help build, and the generates a universal income for all of the people that are co-owned at our farm. If they're under 18, it goes into a trust fund and they get their share of the interest compounding universal basic income when they turn 18. But could be done. I know one of our past U.S. Transhumanist Party, Sultan Istvan, had a article just published just about the federal land dividend that would create a UBI, because there's all this federal-owned land in the United States, and a lot of it is not used or exploited for commercial purposes. But when you think about it, we would all all this federal land with federal $400 for every person in the country. So the federal government could build these big buildings on some of that land. You don't have to have extracted mining. So that's one way to do the balance, to do transition. Another thing is
everything. That sounds good. But Mr. Ching, I don't know if you have any thoughts, but a lot of folks have also been talking, even here in North Carolina, and I know around the globe, about this notion of smart cities. And I know a lot of that is trying to make sure that the cities are environmentally and energy efficient and all in that nature. I know that we have been here in North Carolina talking about Durham and everything being a smart city. There are a number of smart cities globally, and there are definitely smart cities out in the West Coast. But I didn't know if you had any thoughts around these smart cities, whether that's around mass
Yeah,
transit
yeah,
or
that's
around other ways that the general public can get tied into a more efficient transition as we try to become more energy efficient. I keep hearing people talk about smart cities. I
I
didn't
was
know
just
that we
going to
had dumb cities, but
smart.
we need smart cities.
I didn't get to
To
finish my thought there. I was just going to say you could have car sharing in communities, like an electric car that the whole block of people could use, because cars sit idle time. So there's something called zip cars, which is one way to do car sharing. This could be applied to tools. Lots. That was what I didn't get to say just now. Thanks.
the person to follow on smart city is Patrick Freeman, grandson of Milton Freeman. Okay, he has a person who raised fund for him. Okay, and you should follow him, and he's the person who raised fund for him. Nicholas. Okay, and he describes some smart city. Okay, very futuristic. I think they are the leading authority in the world on smart city. Okay, Patrick Freeman wants to do seasteading. Okay, homesteading, seasteading. Okay, now he switched to charter city. Okay, and also this naturally follow to smart city. And he's the spiritual leader, and the people follow him goes in many directions. One of the directions is the smart city. It's very impressive what they presented. We did. Nobody knows it goes so far already. They keep track of every smart city in the world. Okay, most of them fail. Putting too much money to very rich people. Okay, so not applicable to most in most cases. But this you follow Patrick Freeman, and also Nicholas. His assistant. So you get a very interesting view, very advanced view. Yeah.
I would add that wave power is better than wind power, because these are birds, but you're not going to kill things with bobbing duck kind of wave and kind of raters. So
Yeah,
you mentioned something about Ken Polk and everything, and something called in Eden City. I saw that in the chat and everything. So what is that all about? And I know a lot of people would like to have an Eden-like city. I guess my question, and this is just me being a little bit of a humorist, because y'all know I go add humor every once in a while and just stuff. If we've got a bunch of smart cities, does that mean that we're going to have an equal amount of dumb cities? And if so, what will the dumb cities be doing and all in that nature? Because we've got the smart cities, I would imagine we've got to have the opposite as well.
The dumb cities have to go to the back of the
room. Yeah, also this wave should be called the moon energy. You see, the moon is pulling everything. Actually, they don't need a wave. They just make some big structure, let the moon pulling it around, and it can generate electricity.
Yeah, where is moon power?
Moon power.
And, Elon Musk said he's going to space, and Reverend Daniel told me that he might be at some point trying to go down to Atlantis, because there was an entire lost city that apparently, if you believe mythology, was existing in the ocean, even though nobody has actually found that city, even though I do know some folks that say it was an actuality and all in that space. But I'm not a swimmer, so I would have a serious problem unless they're going to find a way for me to be underwater without being able to swim. So that sounds like that would be problematic in the first place.
You don't have to go you're already in space. We're on a spaceship Earth.
Exactly.
So, we should guys treat it like one.
Yeah, no doubt.
And a lot of our energy usage is because of heating and cooling our spaces. Right now, we're having a terrible heat wave in a lot of places. But if you say building codes let you build earth sheltered or house, that cuts your energy bill down by like 70 or 90%, because into that 60-degree Fahrenheit constant temperature line that's always under the ground, about 6 feet down. So that's a big way to save energy.
Yeah, Reverend Daniel, I heard that 3 of the 5 continents are in the middle of a heat wave. Now, one of them is
Yeah.
literally on the equator, so I'm surprised that they're not part of the heat wave. But when I was watching the news, I saw that Europe, Asia, and North America, and I guess, well, no, yeah, definitely North America. I think also South America, but definitely North America, Europe, and Asia were under a heat wave. I'm going like, well, isn't South America and Africa on the equator? So it seems to me that they would be on the heat wave as well, but I hadn't heard reports of them as of yet and everything. But definitely, in Australia is way down under, so maybe they're not having it as deep a heat wave, or maybe it's winter in Australia right now, because I always forget how the seasons work there. But I did see that it was 3 of the major continents that were under a heat wave in this particular time.
Yeah,
Well, you said later, I'm on a team for the X Prize, and we want to build a 30-kilometer wide equatorial seastead belt all around the equator. And yeah, this
okay, Daniel, you should look into this wave modulation. Okay, they say it can save 30% of electricity. You see, the wave coming out of a wire is not the sinusoidal. It's sort of like a triangular. If you make it into a sinusoidal, it saves 35%. So
I was talking about ocean wave, electromagnetic waves, or
electromagnetic wave. Yeah, electromagnetic wave. If you look into that and popularize that with your transhumanist party, it can really be effective. Right now, people try to say it's only 35%, so they are not making too much profit. But I think people should do this. Sinusoidal wave, the AC, the AC wave.
There's a lot of parasitic, non-harmonic distortion.
Non-harmonic distortion. Yeah. This distortion costs lots of money.
Yeah,
30%. Yeah, if you see somebody like your organization can push this, okay, because you are popular, you have a popular base. You see.
Only electricians know about this stuff. That's funny.
Well, I had a relative
electrician. People who are in the business, really, they know it's effective. It's important, but nobody talk about this. Nobody can make money out of it, so nobody talks.
We're for
no,
clean.
I had a relative that was an electrician and a plumber, and did a number of other fields in that kind of blue collar work that is very important, because we need electricians, we need plumbers, we need a number of other stuff. Hey, Dr. Sharif, I know you're winding down. Maybe we need to borrow from the animal kingdom and all of that, because every time that I see the little small animals, the ants and the bees and everything, they are usually working in the collective mindset and all in that space. That is why they are been surviving for decades, including some that we don't want to survive for decades, because they can be a nuisance and all in that space. But maybe we need to borrow as a global and a human society some tactics from our smaller animals. They may have much lesser brain power, but in some ways they seem smarter than us, because they are definitely working together and in unity. So maybe we actually need to borrow some lessons from our smaller animal friends. I don't know if Dr. Ching and Reverend Twit agree with me, but I think that sometimes we need to borrow some mindset from our friends in Mother Nature.
Yeah, ants and bees will always survive, but humans is still under question. We're being tested. I think there's some aliens among us, but they don't want to talk to us, because they want to test us if we have this survival worthiness test. You see, to see if we can do it. One of the things we need to invent the fusion machine, so we can heat up the Earth when there's an ice age. Before the next ice age, we should have a fusion reactor.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the test. Okay, immediate test.
Well, if you're off the planet, you're pick and choose between ice age and ice age, because you've got 400-degree temperature difference between day and night off in space.
Yeah. So it's just all climate control. Same thing. Today we should go for climate control, not all this pollution elimination, all this. Control climate is the overall picture.
Can I ask you a quick question about fusion, Dr.
Yeah.
Now, what about the problem of the bombardment to the of the fusion. Doesn't that induce radiation, and doesn't it just wear out the materials that you're using for your fusion plant?
Yeah, well, I give you some hint. Okay, I don't think I can reveal it in public too much, because this is really government stuff, So, so you should follow Livermore. Okay, Livermore already know how to make the machine. They're not telling us. Okay, they're just waiting. They're waiting. They know how to do it. And the way is to heat up, use something to neutron to heat up some thorium. Then thorium become uranium. Then uranium heat up the fusion. You see, and all these people use particles. There's how do you extract energy from all this control fusion? It's not really a control fusion. It just make a small bomb. You follow Livermore, okay? Livermore already have the solution. They're not telling us, okay?
Hey, Mr. Ching, just a question, curiosity. I know Dr. Sharif will end us at some point or another, but are we ever going to be totally away from fossil fuel? I did see what Virginia, I think was her name, wrote earlier, and I sometimes wonder if we are so dependent that we will never get off of fossil fuel. But I just wondered
people
your
complain
thoughts.
about fossil fuel. Transportation is only 17%. Okay, so what are you talking about fossil fuel? Fossil fuel, there's still no matter how you do it, there's still 70% of the fossil fuel that cannot be eliminated. You still continue to use fossil fuel for different things. You make plastic from fossil fuel. Okay, so basically, people the overall picture is not there. You check all this oil company, the big oil company, the bad guys. They know what's going on. So you follow the type of people who know Livermore, Patrick Freeman, also oil guys. You see all the oil, the picture with the oil. They know where the oil is going, the future of oil. They know everything.
I think those hydrocarbon for making stuff, not for burning, not for we're foolish.
Yeah, for making things. Yeah, making things. Yeah. But still, it's a hydrocarbon. It's still cause elimination of CO2. You see. CO2, what's so bad about CO2? In the past, in the old time, prehistorical time, the dinosaurs breathing carbon CO2.
Yeah, but it took hundreds of thousands of years to get to those high levels. So we cannot adapt.
Yeah, CO2
that rapid of a change.
What I mean is, this is, also in the early days, animals, like some animals that survive permanently, they breathe sulfur dioxide, even more poison. But oxygen is one of the most poisonous of all this stuff. But oxygen seems to help us burn things. We get more energy. So human beings created at such a complexity. We're still on the test to see if we can survive. Okay, so if we get some alien technology, then we will survive. But they don't want. They want to see if we can survive. Then, if we cannot, then they will make another species of human.
Well, we don't have much time because the sun is going to get.
You look at the recent science. This debate on origin of life, on evolution. You see that the people looking at the ancient civilization, 10,000 years ago, we already have such advanced, technology similar to we have today. So where did this civilization go? They'll be eliminated, extinct, because they cannot make fusion reactor, for one thing. You see. So you need to survive this crisis. Today we cannot survive a single crisis.
Yeah, and evolution doesn't have time, doesn't solve a new species capable of leaving the planet. So we got to get it next 100 years.
Definitely got to do that and everything. We got the $6 million question, Reverend Daniel, and everything. It is a very important question that everybody here on World Challenge Economy Forum wants to know and everything. I know that I want to know, Mr. Ching wants to know, and everybody knows, including Virginia, and that is what is in that cup of yours, and when do we get a drink as well? Because you've got a
No,
couple.
we're going to
well,
survive.
No, I was pretty confirmed drinker. I've quit about 4 months ago. I've given alcohol, unfortunately, or fortunately. So I think at 62 years old is probably a good idea. Probably, give those organs of the body a break. So,
You're all looking very good. Yeah.
maybe on special occasions. I'm not rules. I'm not. No more daily drinking there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Hope
gonna go
you
cold
and
turkey, which is what some people are asking us to do fossil fuels wise, because I know some people that are wondering when we're gonna see those electric car units, as I said earlier, at every corner, at every stop, and every road, including our country roads. So, Mr. Ching, when are we gonna see that in the United States and around the world? That literally everybody will be driving everything from their shanty vehicles to their regular cars and trucks, and we'll have a electric gas station at every corner, just like we have in the world today, particularly in the First Nations or the Western world, or the ones that are more. When is that going to be out there? Or is it going to be in our lifetime, or is it going to be? My nephews are about to be 14 and 15. Will it be when they are 60 or 70?
Yeah, well, this is good question. Since today everything is the goal of doing something is for money. So money-oriented society is the cause of everything. No knowledge, nothing. People got distracted by money. They no longer go deep into knowledge. You see, so my professor with the last generation of knowledge generation. You see, so I cannot find anybody. All these really smart people have become billionaires. They see that the money, the opportunity for them to get really rich. So they all got distracted. So we don't have the smart people are not doing knowledge; they're doing money. You see. So this is the key question. There's a guy, Peter Thiel, who keep talking about we have no innovation. He's right, but he doesn't have the solution. Okay, Daniel, why don't you go tell him? The solution is we're all distracted by money, including him.
No, we need a knowledge, need an economy. Well, most of our science.
He went to a debate against a chess champion. He couldn't. He's just nobody. He couldn't say anything. Because the chess champion, he's a knowledge oriented. He plays chess. He's not even a scientist. So basically, people need to concentrate on knowledge, not in money. But money is okay. Money is so we have such a huge population, we can still support it. And the money-oriented society is started by my professor, Milton Friedman. He's for money-oriented. He said that the human being should go from politics-oriented to money-oriented. So today we have instant military wars. We have trade wars. Big improvement. Okay, he has a solution of peace. Okay, so the society advanced stage by stage. Okay, from political oriented where you fight militarily to money oriented society, it's a trade war. So smart people like Russia is fighting a war, but the economy of Russia is booming. U.S. wouldn't let people know. That's why it can still keep going. You see.
I don't think Russia's economy is booming.
Yeah, you check carefully into it. I tell you, you see, all they care about is how much money they make. Okay,
maybe Putin's bank account is booming, but I don't
people
think
dies, then that they don't share. They don't let people to share the wealth. All this general.
Mr. Ching, isn't that one of the things that goes on in the world and everything? Because as I understand it, one of the natures of the military-industrial complex is that whenever we are in trouble, that is oftentimes when countries will launch a war because it will keep the economy engine-driven. And so, to your point, I can see where Russia's economy would be.
Smart people with high culture level, they focus on making money. You see, dumb people, they let the young people, let all their competitors die. In the field, they don't care. People die doesn't mean money is going to be less. Okay, the importance is to focus on money, keep making money. You see, Russia, Putin is getting richer and richer. except there's some people object to him. You see. Each people, have their own thinking. Everyone is trying to make more money. Even the generals try to make more money. So they all have their own thinking. But smart countries, smart people, they go to Milton Friedman. Okay, focus on money. Okay, eventually it's the economy.
I think it's a huge problem that 90% of our scientific research is behind paywalls right now.
Yeah.
We don't, and the funding keeps going to private sources that we're stifling the knowledge-based economy by locking away all this science.
Yes, right. Stagnation in the knowledge-oriented society. But this is, the correct process is going from policy-oriented to money-oriented, then to knowledge-oriented. It's not to jump into knowledge-oriented. The knowledge-oriented just because science help the politician fight wars. So there's lots of money going to knowledge. The knowledge is basically science, not anything else.
Can we go from knowledge? You think could we eventually oriented economy? Is that the fight?
We should go into definitely try to move into knowledge-oriented society. I have everything prepared. I have invented money. I invented money. Today there's no money. You see. Nobody knows what should be money. They just keep printing. Okay. The only money is gold. Okay, so I invented integer gold. You see, which will replace gold. Okay, so the world can have some, money, and this money. What would this money for? This money will be for funding all the research, innovative project which can satisfy the solution value. Okay, we calculate people all over the world. They can submit proposal. If anything that justify their proposal, monetary and social benefit, then we will fund them. Okay, but first, government need to accept my money first.
Well, there's a lot of folks I know that want that money and everything. Hey, Reverend Daniel, you're a political candidate. How can we get out of that mindset? Because that is definitely a mindset that you alluded to, which is that too many people are looking at the military-industrial complex, which pretty much has eaten up a lot of our budget on a regular basis. And any country, I don't care whether it's Russia or the U.S. or some of those in Latin America and Africa, if they are in a economic shambles, then they will oftentimes launch a war in order to keep their economy going and in order to drive the economy. So it does seem that war is a big business, to borrow that old phrase. So how can we get out of that mindset as one that is running on a political ticket? So get our kids out of that mindset, because a lot of them are watching games that are involved in stuff that is even helping them have that militaristic viewpoint and everything. But how can you think that we can get folks out of that mindset and into a better energy space?
Yeah, on the
one of the most decorated war heroes, Medley Butler, out of the Marine. I was a gangster for capitalism. He said, "War is around." And a lot of people have realized that even though even have a lot of our technological motivation, it's really as a dead end. We want to have a cooperative, loving society. So it's more to give than to receive. And all the ancient truths, are still out there. They're still correct. But yeah, we will transcend beyond but if there's a thing called spiral dynamics, Ken Wilber, integrity, he talks about how you have really levels of society, and we move on to more cooperative, more advanced, more reciprocal accountability. And hopefully the thinkers will the thugs. Go ahead, you.
Yeah, well, today basically we're looking at the money-oriented society, which is for short-term and the monetary returns. Okay, what we need to do is look at the long-term and the non-monetary social returns as well. So that is solution value. Okay.
Yeah.
Calculate to about everything. Okay, so all the smart countries.
What's the best system to measure non-monetary returns?
Well, we already have the solution. I can email you. I can send you link in the the program that calculate. Anybody who submit a proposal, we should use that solution value to calculate to see how much value is this project. Okay, if the value is higher than the budget, then we should fund it. Okay, that's the criteria funding, not peer review. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, you have some friends, they approve your appraisal, you know, you got funded, you know, all this thing. And also, is it smart people, they all think about money. No. Dumb people still want to fight. Okay, it's another Putin think he can, you know, he can rid of some of his enemies by going into war. You know, some competitors, you know, in Russia they got group of people who share the wealth of the country.
We're going to talk all day. Sharif.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have to
everything. So appreciate the conversation.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine asked a question that I can ask Reverend Daniel and Ching as well. And I told him that I felt smarter, but he asked whether I was smarter or richer today or both.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
in my case, I felt that I had gained knowledge, so I had got
Okay.
smarter. I knew that I did not see a lot of money.
It's a
That
good
I
question to ask.
finding change and everything. So it's definitely not richer. So maybe today I was smarter, but not both. But
You could be
what
smarter
about
and
you?
richer, maybe.
And the survival.
Thank you, everyone.
No problem.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye and take care.
Bye,
Good
bye,
talk.
Daniel.